Sunshine and a warm breeze today. Tomorrow looks warm too, but then a big time change is coming. We'll check your first 1 5 forecast. This Channel 5 News at 5 begins right now.
From the Valley's News Channel, this is Channel 5 News at 5.
We continue to follow breaking new developments. We first brought you on Channel 5 News at 4. A woman who was kidnapped more than 2 weeks ago in Far has been found dead. Her body found near North Hutto and Sioux Roads.
Our Steve Solis on the scene since the news broke. We go live to him now with what he's learned since 4. Steve, what you got?
Hey guys, we're here in Donna near Sioux and Hutto Roads, where in this field right behind me around 1:15 today, a ranch worker found the body of 39-year-old Elia Margarita Flores. Now, she was a woman who was kidnapped in Far back at the end of October. Now, Judge Rosa Trevino tells me that this woman, the remains, she could tell it was her because of the clothing and the tattoos that were on the remains. Now, Judge Trevino also tells me that the body was very badly decomposed, making it really tough for investigators to determine how she died. Now, Judge Trevino did order an autopsy just last week. 26-year-old Victor Garcia, his body was found north of McAllen. Now, this guy was a witness to the kidnapping. Now, Far police tell me they're actively investigating this case. Now, coming up on Channel 5 News at 6, we're going to hear from the man who found this woman's body and contacted authorities. We'll have his story for you. And again, at Channel 5 News at 6. Live in Donna, Steve Solis, Channel 5 News at 5.
And Channel 5 News did some digging into how many kidnappings have happened in the valley. This is what we found in our archives. The first attempted kidnapping we reported this year happened January 16th. A man in San Juan told police a trio of men trying to take him at gunpoint.
Channel 5 News reported 19 kidnappings or attempts so far this year. This total does not include kidnappings of illegal immigrants or kidnappings of Americans across the border. 19 abductions or attempts right here in the valley.
But last year we reported 7 kidnappings, and in 2012, 16 kidnappings or attempts were reported.
New at 5, a Valley View teenager was shot early this morning south of the border. State police are now investigating. The 14-year-old girl is hospitalized at Regional del Rio Hospital across the border in Reynosa. She's listed in serious but stable condition. State police are investigating who shot the girl, who is 4 months pregnant. Coming up on Channel 5 News at 6, we'll hear from the victim's mother and how her daughter says the shooting happened.
We continue to follow the latest on those missing students in Mexico. Relatives and classmates of the 43 missing students clashed with federal police in the Mexican city of Acapulco today. Protesters are calling for justice. These clashes are the latest in a series of angry protests since Mexican authorities announced last week that suspects in the disappearance of the students had confessed to murdering them, burning the bodies, and then dumping their ashen remains into a river. Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto said it was unacceptable that some people are trying to use this tragedy to justify their violence.
What happened to the students in Ayotzinapa, we have to say, calls for justice, calls for peace and unity, not for violence or confrontation.
A student disappeared after they were attacked in September by police in Iguala and later handed over to members of the Guerreros Unidos drug gang.
It's been a breezy, warm day across the valley. Temperatures today mostly up into the 80s. We've cooled off from that. Here are the current 77, 78 degrees across the region. Dew points up, breezes up, south-southeast at about 14 miles an hour. Things are going to change. We have one more very warm day tomorrow, but then the bottom's going to drop out of that thermometer. We'll check the temperatures and the forecast coming up in a few minutes.
A new tower is standing along the coast in South Padre Island. The new tower is called a Sentinel. It's a data collection station. The tower can withstand a Category 4 hurricane, and it will measure the wind speeds, water current, water temperature, air temperature, and more. The tower is one of more than 30 existing towers along the Texas Gulf. Texas A&M University Corpus Christi is behind the network of data collection, and they tell us the tower will give us more information, key information, before, during, and after a hurricane. This tower is scheduled to be powered up on the grid 2016.
Parking in and around a Brownsville fire station should be better pretty soon. Firefighters at station number 4 are left to park on the street, in grass, or potholes when their small gated parking lot is full. Firefighter Union President Carlos Elizondo calls it a big problem that firefighters have worked with for years. Fire Chief Lenny Pettis says they are working with that and working at least with what they've got.
This is an antiquated station. It's been here for a long, long time, so that we're very challenged as far as parking is concerned there.
Pettis says there are plans to repave the fenced parking area. He tells us that project will be done by the end of the month. As for the potholes in the surrounding area, like you see there, he's asking the city to fill them in.
You know, Oscar, a new $1 million state initiative is looking to boost mental health programs for military veterans.
Yeah, our Letty Garza joining us in the studio with the latest on the story. Letty?
That's right, Oscar. Mel, the move was just announced today by Governor Rick Perry. The new project is being dubbed the Texas Veterans Initiative. Now, Governor Perry, Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst, and House Speaker Joe Straus all worked together to create it. The initiative will allow the state's $1 million investment to match local and private funds to expand and evaluate community-based mental health programs serving veterans and their families. The project will be funded by the Texas Health and Human Services Commission. Now, if the pilot phase generates widespread interest from communities around the state, the legislature could act in 2015 to expand it. The objective will be to award state funding to programs throughout Texas. Applicants will be chosen for the pilot phase no later than March. Live in the studio, Letty Garza, Channel 5 News at 5.
And just one day before we honor our veterans, there's news from the Veteran Affairs Secretary. Bob McDonald announced what he's calling the biggest reorganization in the department's history.
Yeah, the focus is on improving care for veterans and the system in which they get treatment. ABC News' Karen Travers has the details from Washington.
In some parts of the U.S., events are already underway to honor our nation's veterans. And here in Washington, the Veterans Affairs Department announced its highly anticipated game plan to improve service and care for the nation's 22 million veterans. Here's the VA Secretary on CNN.
We need to be more veteran-centric. We need to focus on veteran outcomes.
The VA will establish what it calls a Chief Customer Service Officer, who will report directly to the Secretary. The department will also establish a single regional structure that brings together a wide range of services, including healthcare, loan centers, and other benefits. The goal is to streamline what's been called a clunky, confusing system that required multiple usernames and passwords. These reforms are the result of the embarrassing scandal that rocked the VA earlier this year. Reports that at dozens of facilities around the nation, veterans were waiting months for treatment, and records were manipulated to hide the problems. A whistleblower even came forward to say that at the VA hospital in Phoenix, Arizona, some veterans may have died while awaiting care. McDonald was previously the CEO of Procter & Gamble. He's also a graduate of West Point and served 5 years in the Army.
This is very personal. I have a lot of folks that I served with that I am really want to take care of in the very best way I can.
The VA says its goal is to have this reorganization completed within a year. Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
A U.S. airstrike launched last week in Iraq. The leader of a major terror group is believed to be at least injured or maybe even dead. We'll tell you who after the break.
And the last American prisoners held in North Korea are back in the U.S. How a secret mission secured their freedom. You're watching Channel 5 News at 5.
Breaking news. Breaking stories. This is Channel 5 News with Oscar Adame, Melissa Correa, and First Warn 5 Weather with Chief Meteorologist Tim Smith. This is Channel 5 News at 5.
Iraqi and U.S. military officials are trying to find out if the leader of ISIS has been wounded and or maybe even killed in an airstrike. An Iraqi intelligence official says Abu al-Baghdadi was wounded on Saturday. The U.S.-led airstrike was targeting an ISIS convoy last week. That convoy believed to be carrying battlefield leaders, but not senior leaders of ISIS. Baghdadi has a $10 million bounty on his head. Since taking the reins of the group back in 2010, he's transformed it from a local branch of al-Qaeda into an independent transnational military force. North Korea released 2 American prisoners in a secret mission over the weekend. Kenneth Bae and Matthew Todd Miller arrived home on Saturday. The release was secured by Director of National Intelligence James Clapper. Bae was serving 15 years of hard labor. He was accused of preaching against the North Korean regime. Miller was serving a 6-year jail term on espionage charges.
I'm incredibly thankful to Jim Clapper for the efforts that he made, and I couldn't be happier for the families as we enter into the holidays to know that their loved ones are back. It's a good news story.
President Obama said Clapper held no discussions with the North Koreans beyond the release of the prisoners.
Bae and Miller's release comes less than a month after North Korea released Jeffrey Fowle. Fowle spent 5 months in prison for leaving a Bible at a club. He says he realizes now it was not the right thing to do.
I would say if I had it do over again, knowing what I know now, I wouldn't have done it. Things did not unfold according to the way I thought they were going. God had a different plan.
With the release of Bae, Miller, and Fowle, no Americans are being held in North Korea right now. Several Syrians held signs pleading for the life of their friend, ISIS hostage Peter Kasich. They gathered in Lebanon, a place where Kasich helped Syrian refugees in the past. No one but ISIS knows if the American is still alive. The Indiana native was captured while working as an aid worker last year. ISIS threatened his life last month. Not only are Syrian friends supporting the hostage, he's also getting support from a foe, al-Qaeda. Leaders of the terror group condemned ISIS for threatening to kill a fellow Muslim. Kasich converted to Islam before capture and is known as being devout. ISIS already executed 4 hostages: Alan Henning, James Foley, Stephen Sotloff, and David Haynes.
We have another warm day on tap tomorrow. Temperatures well above average, but then the changes come for Wednesday. We'll talk about that and update your forecast for La Gloria, Redgate, Santa Maria, and the rest of the valley next. Monday. That's your updated First Warn 5 forecast.
You know, the forecast looking chilly, but the great thing about it is Tim's giving us a heads up. So if anyone has any extra coats in their closet, clean them out, donate them to Tim's Coats ahead of this cold front coming in. Might be a good idea.
Come in handy. Never can have too many coats.
Never can
folks
have.
At Salvation Army and Catholic Charities have always said that, you know, they just, as fast as they bring them in, they give them out.
And for all sizes, kids to adults.
Yeah.
So, you know, you got a couple of days, folks. You know, we have a couple of days. Folks up north have, you know, the time's come and gone. Just as Tim mentioned, in some parts of the country, it feels more like January in the teens.
Yeah, the forecasters say the earlier than usual wintry weather caused by the remnants of Nuri, that's a powerful 800-mile wide storm that first battered Alaska. Now it's on the way south to the continental U.S., pushing into the U.S. with Arctic cold and snow.
Parts of Montana, Wyoming, and the Dakotas are already blanketed in snow, and forecasters say as much as 2 feet of it is going to fall in parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan.
It is going to be a true taste of winter across the northern Rockies and the plains the next couple of days. Meanwhile, for the east, it's a reminder that winter's not too far away.
And for the south, it just makes us feel better.
Yeah, 42 states expected to be in the deep freeze, but luckily not here, although Tim just mentioned 40 degrees cooler than what it is like today.
It's not all bad news, though, Oscar. Federal forecasters predicted last month that this winter will be fairly average.
We'll see. There's been another online security breach in the U.S. We'll tell you which employees and customer data that was compromised and who the U.S. thinks is behind it.
This is war. There's no other way to really describe it.
And the entire country under cyber attack? When Channel 5 News at 5 returns, we'll tell you how much the U.S. is throwing down to try and stop these online bullies. Stay with us. The U.S. Postal Service was hacked. The FBI and other federal agencies are now investigating. The Washington Post says China may be to blame. The U.S. Postal Service told Congress about the hack back in October and then again early this month. But the company barely released the information today. The breach may compromise the Social Security numbers of 800,000 Postal Service employees. Customers at local post offices or those using its website, USPS.com, were not affected.
You know, and there are so many cyber attacks as of late. The U.S. intelligence community says those attacks now trump terrorism as the #1 threat to the U.S. A $10 billion a year effort to protect sensitive government data, including military secrets to Social Security numbers, is struggling to keep pace with an increasing number of cyber attacks. The Pentagon says last year, Chinese government hackers stole plans for more than 24 U.S. weapon systems.
Whether it's games or automobiles or access to information or learning, all that creates more things that are connected, and that has grown faster than previous risk calculations in security investments were growing.
The number of reported cyber incidents on federal networks up 70%. In 2009, there were under 30,000, but last year that number rose to nearly 50,000.
Well, tomorrow, another warm day across the valley. It's a good day to kind of dig out the stuff you're going to need for the cold day, which comes on Wednesday. Tomorrow up to 86 for a high, but by evening, see signs of that front coming through. Temperatures begin to drop, and by Wednesday, we'll be in the 40s much of the day. We'll check that forecast when we come back.
Visit buyhyundai.com.
You know, we continue following developing news out of Hidalgo County that we first broke online at KRGV.com. Authorities confirming the body of a kidnapped victim out of Pharr was discovered today. We're told the suspect is still on the run.
Our Steve Solis is out in that scene where the remains were found. He did talk to one of the folks who found the woman's body. You'll hear from them in about 30 minutes. Also, we are looking into claims of police brutality. Kurt Chason will have details of the investigation a half hour from now.
Tomorrow's going to be the last warm day for a while. Temperatures into the upper 80s, and then we fall through the 50s, perhaps even into the 40s Wednesday afternoon. Thursday, we don't rebound much. By Friday, we're back to 60 in the weekend, in the low 70s, and then another slight cool down for early next week. We'll update that forecast for you coming up at 6 o'clock.
You know, and I believe there's going to be an update. Anytime there's rain and cool temperatures, it can change at a moment's notice.
It can.
That's the Valley for you. Thanks for sticking with us.
Have yourself a safe evening. Bye-bye.